Hello again and welcome back. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. I'd like to say a big hello and welcome to all the regulars that are stopping by again. Thank you so much for all your comments and your likes, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I hope you really enjoy the content. Now today I'm doing a pre-recorded video in March because I'm going away for most of April and May. And I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Now, some of you are probably thinking, oh, but Annie, I've already seen this book, and you're correct. I actually picked this book up a few weeks ago at a thrift store, and I showed you this book on my thrift haul number 4 video. And I said to you then that I picked this up because I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. And it's a book with a compilation of different artworks of the Swiss Alps. Now you can see that I have taken this image out of this page here, but it's got some lovely big images, and look at that. That is absolutely stunning. And when I picked this book up from the thrift store, it was in the bag of books for $10, worked out to probably around 75 cents, something like that. I knew that I wanted to make some really big policy closure envelopes that used the artwork to shine. And I'm going to decorate them, but I'm not going to overcomplicate it. I want to fold the envelopes in a particular way so that the artwork of all the different artists is the feature. Now I have 2 different types of envelopes that I'm making. I'm making one that is just a standard envelope that you can put in to a pocket or something like that and load it up with different documents and use it in your journals or use it for Happy Mail. And then the other one I'm doing is got a hinge on it. So it's still a policy envelope, but it's designed with a hinge. So I'm going to make both of those designs on the video for you, and I'm going to talk about how I decide when I'm looking at an image, how I decide on the fold, and where I'm going to put the focal point of the envelope. So you can see here we've got our people here, they're our focal point, and I've got them positioned off center, so I don't really like it centered if I can manage it, and either in the top third or the bottom third of the composition. So you can see that here, this is my focal point here, and I do that with all of the different envelopes that I'm working on. So let's set up the desk and I'll show you how I'm going to fold this one first and give you some basic measurements, but more techniques of how you decide on your fold. Okay, so I've pulled a page out of my book, and you can see here that we have our gentlemen down here in the foreground that are pulling boats out of the water, and then we've got the massive mountains that are magnificent, but they're very dominant in the piece of art. So my focal point, when I look at this image, this becomes my focal point. So I know that if I folded this to try and get a hinge on the side, that most of my information is going to be hidden. It's going to be in the wrong spot. So then that lends itself to it being a folded policy envelope, with our men being down the bottom, being a little bit off center so that they're coming in, and this being our main focal point. So how do I then work out where I'm going to put the creases? So let me show you that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten the edge of where I pulled the page out of the book, because we want a square edge. The next thing, I'm going to decide where I want one side of my envelope. Now, when I just roll this, I can see that I want my man here to be in the view, and then there's something over here that I'm wanting to counterbalance that. So I'm kind of wanting to get them both in with a little bit of an overlap. So I've kind of got that I want this one around about there. So let's turn it over. We don't need to measure or score. We just need to, now that we know our edges are straight, we just need to line it up and fold it. Then we're going to bring this over and we're going to have a small overlap, and I'm going to make sure that I keep that little piece of information in the front, and then I'm just going to score it once I know that it's straight. So not a massive amount of measuring. Now you can see, I'll hold it up, there'll be a little bit of an overlap. Okay, so the next thing is you've got to decide which way you want your overlap to sit, and I'm going to have it sitting this way so it looks as if the mountain's still coming down. Then we need to work out how far we want to keep our focal point in, and I need an upturned bit for the envelope. Now this is very low to the bottom. Normally I've been doing a 1-inch fold at the bottom, so I'll show you what I mean. This fold at the bottom that comes up, I've been doing that around about 1 inch, and then I've been adjusting the top one depending on the design. But here with this one, our men are already very low to the ground. So I'm only going to do a very small fold on that. So I'm only going to score that at 1/2 inch because I want to keep as much of the image as I can. So you need to adjust your folds and scores with your envelope so that it suits the composition. Because the whole point is that we're trying to keep the magic of the artwork. Now, most of them I'm doing around about 8.5 tall. So somewhere between 8 and 8.5. Now with this one, because the mountains are so big, I think I'm going to go 8 because the men are so far down, and I'm going to just score it. So now what we do is we just fold that, and I'm now going to cut out all of my corners, and I'm going to cut the score out, but I'm going to keep it so that it still looks like a rectangle. So quickly cut out the corners, and we're cutting out the score. Okay, so we're wanting it nice and straight, but taking that score line out so that it doesn't impede on the folding. Okay, so when we fold this now, we can see that we've got a very small upturn, which that's okay. And I'm just going to tidy up this edge a little bit, and we're going to decide on how much we want our flap to fold down. So I think that I'm going to cut that flap down a little bit, and I'm going to cut about 1 1/4 inches off of that so that it's more in proportion to the envelope. So there we go, that's looking good. I'm just making sure that there's nothing catching on the top and the bottom flap, and then I'm going to just round the edges on those. So I'm putting a 10mm round on the corners, and the next thing I need to do is I need to cut out a bit of a notch, but I don't want to slide my punch into there, or some of you might not have a big enough envelope to do that, so I'll show you a bit of a trick. So I've just pulled out a piece of scrap out of my scrap bin, and I'm just going to punch a small notch, and I'm going to keep the punched out bit, and I'm just going to position that on there like that, and I'm going to sketch around it with a pencil. And now I'm going to notch out both of those notches, so that it gives me my notch, and now I can erase any of that pencil work off of it. The next thing I just need to do now is close up my envelope. So you can see that they're pretty easy to make. I'm going to use some 5mm double-sided tape, so that's just under 1/4 inch to close it up. So pop that on the edge of your page and close up your envelope. And we're going to put some 8mm onto this bottom one. Now I have to be honest with you, I have already done this video, and when I downloaded it, the sound didn't work on this first chapter. So I'm redoing the chapter. So when we go further into the video, I'll probably show you a different envelope that I did in this first section, because it was quicker for me to just redo the video and do a new envelope for you than it was going to be for me to do a different type of editing with a voiceover. When you get further into the video, you'll see that I made one of these, but it looked like, let me show you it. It was this one. So getting closer to the end of the video, you'll see me talking about this envelope where I have done the exact same process, but I used this paper with this image. There you go. We've got another envelope made, and you can see that our focal point is down here with our men coming in, and we've got some big mountains in the background. And you can see that I did it slightly smaller than this one. It's the same width, but it's a little bit shorter, and that was because of how diminished the men are down in the bottom of their view. Okay, so now we will jump back onto the rest of the video, and I will show you how to make the next envelope out of another beautiful page out of an art book. And I've got so many of those lovely coffee table books that you don't know what to do with, and making some lovely big beautiful envelopes out of them that you can put into your journals or send to Happy Mail is a really lovely option, because otherwise we end up not knowing what to do with them, or they end up going into landfill, and they've usually got some lovely artwork on them that we should be trying to save. So now I will go on and show you how to make an envelope that has a hinge on it. So I'll be back in a moment with the rest of the video. See you soon. Okay, so here we go. I have cut out the 4 corners, but it looks completely different than the one we just did, doesn't it? Now there's a few little tricks with this one. What we need to do now is we need to fold and burnish and work out where we're going to be cutting out our flaps. Okay, so I've cut out all of our 4 corners, and this is our gluing flap. We're going to fold that in, take it over to our hinge, close our hinge over so that we've got clearance, and then you can burnish this down, and that means our hinge will work perfectly, but our top and bottom fold downs don't work. So we have our envelope that closes, our hinge, and we need to decide if this is our front, do we want the flap to come over the front? So do we want it to do this, and for the bottom to be seen or hidden? Or do we want it to go this way? Okay, and for it to be blank. So I quite like the flap coming down at the top to bring the clouds into the sky. So I'm going to do that, but I don't want the flap on the bottom showing and taking away from the mountain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this flap on the front, but I'm going to take the top flap off here. So I'm going to keep this one. So let's cross the bit we're going to take off. We're going to cut that one off, and we're going to flap this flap around the back, but I want to see the clouds coming down. So I'm going to take this piece out here. So let's cut those out, and I'm going to cut them out with my knife and my steel ruler. Okay, so there we go. that's what we've got. It looks a little bit funny, but let me fold it and show you what we've got. We've got a bit that's going to glue our pocket shut. Okay, so we're going to put double-sided tape on here and glue this shut. We have our hinge. That looks quite nice actually with the washi on it and the background shining through. And then we have our flap down cover that brings in our clouds, and we have our flap up base. Okay, so what I've got to decide now is how long do I want this flap, and once again I think the flap is too long. I'm going to cut it back around about 1.5 centimeters, which is 5/8 of an inch. So I'll cut that down, and the reason I'm cutting it down, it's purely about proportion. Before we glue it shut, I've got a few things that I need to do. You can see here that now this is a situation where it's not going to look overly pretty with this flap with the text on it and the punched out hole, seeing this mess. But I do have some clouds, so I'm going to glue those clouds on there. And I also have this offcut that we kept from the base that I'm going to use to cover my punch out. So let's ink up, and I'm just going to ink that fold because we're not going to cover that. I'm not going to cover the fold, so we don't want to see that. And I'm going to just measure this and mark it and cut that down so that it fits on there nicely. Okay, so that piece will go on to there, which will be great. And then I have this one that I'm going to put onto here. And it's got the artist's name on it, so I'm going to actually turn it so that we potentially might be able to see the artist's name when we look in the pocket. So let's glue those on, and I'm going to use just glue stick because, once again, I don't want the art glitter glue to be marking the gloss level of the pocket. Nice and easy, just glue them on. Trim them down if they're going to go over the fold a little bit, because you're only really covering the punch out. Give it a really good burnish. So now we have it all ready for us to do our punching. So because I now am getting ready to close this over, I can measure this and find my center point. And my center point is here. And I can do my punch on that. And there we go. You can see that now that piece of scrap has come in handy. We're going to round all of our corners. And I'm going to round the corners on the hinge that's got my washi tape on it as well. So we can now close our pocket. So I'm going to get my double-sided tape and I'm going to run it along that join that's going to seal it up inside. I'll burnish that down, take off the tape and close it over. Give it a really good burnish. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom flap. I've got the bottom folding up on the back. So there you go. You can see that I've got the flap coming down for the front for the clouds in the sky, because otherwise we wouldn't have had anything showing on that front except blue. So let's have a look at our two envelopes that we've made. Okay, so there's the first one we did, and you can see it's bigger. It's bigger in width and in height, so you can make them to whatever size you want. But so it's just trying to make the artwork be the hero. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to decorate the front of one of the ones that I've got here. Then I'm going to show you at the end the other ones that I did, that I decorated, and my stash of envelopes at the end. Okay, so here's one that I made earlier, and you can see that it has text on the back. You can see that it also had a nice image on the top of the back that I was able to utilize. and it has two explorers down here that are about to climb over the mountains, but they've got to go over a glacier first. They look like they're having a bit of a rest. So let me show you what I've got in the envelope to decorate. I didn't want to overcomplicate this, and I didn't want to detract from the artwork. That's the whole point of it. I'm only going to put 5 items on the front. One of them's going to be a label that I have pre-stamped on the word roam, because they're obviously roaming and they've got to work their way over the glacier. So I tried to make it so that the envelope could be used to put things in that would make sense with a word. So this would be lovely for you to put into a journal and put information on it about you going on a walk of some sort, or if you were exploring a new city, or you were going to see some sort of site, or going on a bushwalk or on a hike, and you've got information about it that you want to journal about or keep, information about it. So you could put it in your journal and then put all the information in the envelope about your experience. So I have a big letter R, and the colouring of the R is purposely meant to blend in a little bit but still be noticeable. So I'm just going to put our letter R onto our roam here. I need to ground it somehow, so I've just got a little piece of washi. I'm just going to tear that straight edge off of it so that it's not too straight. And I'm going to tuck that under there so that it's grounded. And then I have a emblem of some sort, and it's not ideal, but the colouring works quite nicely. It's an exploration of navigation. It does have some ships on it, but it's about Liverpool in the UK. But I liked the colouring of it, and I thought I'd cover up Liverpool and hide the ship a little bit, but just have it tucking out the side. And I'm going to finish it off with a little jump ring embellishment that has some invoicey sort of coordinate sort of things on it that I'll pop on. And that's all I'm going to do. So let's ink those up and stick them down. So the decorating doesn't take very long. And I just stamped out the word Rome with my stamps from Amazon, cheap alphabet stamps. And I think that this came from Michelle at the Junk Journal studio, that little embellishment. And these are really, really old, basic grey letters that were in my stash. All right, so it's just about getting the positioning right now. I want the R to be grounded on the hill, not floating up in the sky. So let's put some glue onto our label first and get our R in the right spot. And we'll put in our washi. You can see that I've got the label sitting up. So a little bit of ink on the washi. Put a little bit of art glitter glue on our letter R. And tuck our emblem under there. And then we'll just glue on our little jump ring embellishment to finish it off. So 5 items. So that's looking nice. Now we'll do the back, and I need to work out a closure. So all I've got is I've got a few pieces of ephemera, and this is from J. Lee Lou, and I will leave the link below. Because we've got text here, I want to simplify that, so I'm going to have a little closure here, and I'm going to stack it with this little piece of ephemera that says correspondence, and I've just got another emblem just to go on here as well. So let's ink those up. So like I said, I'm just keeping the ephemera really pared back and a tonal variation of what's going on. It's just so that it's not trying to compete. Stick that little emblem on. You can see that I've just done a little bit of stamping on here, just to put a little bit of information on it. And I'm just going to put that little emblem on it so it looks official. And I've just got a little fern piece of ephemera, a little label, and I'm just going to glue 2/3 of that and use that as my closure. So there we go. So there's the front of it, and I'll just bend that back and give it a burnish so that that washi works. Likes being folded. Give it some memory. Isn't that lovely? And it still lets the artwork be the story, kind of enhancing the story of these two gentlemen that are about to roam and explore over the glacier. And then there's the back. It will work like an envelope, and you'll be able to tuck it closed so that it holds everything in. All right, let me clear the decks and then I'll show you all of the ones that I've made and what I've got in my stash. Okay, so I've got 3 piles here. These are the 2 envelopes that we made together. So this one's just a standard policy envelope that you can use in your journals, and it's ready to go. And then our second one that we made together, it has a nice big fold down flap, but it also has the added benefit of having a hinge that you can hinge it into a journal. Now over here, these are the ones that I made before. So we have this one here that we looked at, just a standard one. I've already done a closure on this one, a swivel closure. This one here is ready to be used. So I've got a bit of a stash, so that's 3, 4, and then we have 3 with hinges. So got that one with a hinge, that one with a hinge, and then this one here of a hinge, and the imagery is lovely. So there's 7 there. So we add our other 2 that we've made. So I've got 9 in my stash to play with down the track, and I'll decorate them as I want to. So the ones I've decorated today, I did that one with you, so we'll leave that there. And our next one, this one is C for chart, and you can see that we have some explorers here that are taking the sled up, and they're about to go over the Alps, the Swiss Alps as well. And so I've got them charting their story or their course, and I've just used a dial out of one of my digitals that I've got from J. Lee Lou again, and stamped the word chart and used another jump ring. So same thing, washi, letter, label, and something circular. And then on the back, we've just got a circle disc that closes, and it coordinates with the washi that I put on the inside. So that just holds it shut. The next 2 have hinges. Now this one here, I did the word or as if you were standing, looking and documenting the information about the mountain with the snow on the peaks, and you were in awe of the scenery. And there we go. I'll show you that one up close. And then on the back, it's got just a swivel closure. I didn't cover this because it's nice and neutral and it didn't need to be overcomplicated. And you can see we've got our hinge ready to go. And this one I decided to decorate the front with the flap coming down. So you can see that the back of the envelope has the full spread, but I wanted to use this as the focal point, and I liked this edge here. I liked the tonal marriage of the craft with this colour palette and then repeating it down here. And this one's got the letter E on it with epic, because, you know, the view in the Swiss Alps is epic. And it's just got an emblem on it of some sort, the letter E, and a number 2, the word epic, and some grounding washi. And then that's the back's empty. So there we go, there's my oversized art book envelopes. Okay, so now let's put one in a journal so that you can see what it looks like. So we'll pop those to the side. And I'm going to bring in my favourites journal for 25-26. And I think I'd like to put it onto this page. Now you can see that I've got very large pages in here. And I'm going to glue it in. I'm not going to muck around with it. I'm going to have it glued in, ready to go. And I'm just going to put some glue on the back of this and glue it in to my journal. There we go. Oh, I like how this music just peeks out. Doesn't that look lovely in there? And the colouring's lovely. And then when you open it up, it's got a place for us to put some hidden treasure. So there we go. I'm really happy with how they turned out. They're my oversized coffee table art book envelopes that you can use to put in your junk journal or send things out in Happy Mail. So have a fresh look at all of those big coffee table books that you've got, or large format books that you think, what am I going to do with this? The images are so beautiful, or the artwork's so beautiful. And you can see that here the glacier is the hero. Here this mountain is still the hero. The same here, the mountain's the hero. The scenery here is still the hero. So my intention was to decorate it a little bit, but to not overtake it and to let the artist's work still shine. I really hope that you like these. They're a little bit different, and I hope that they've inspired you to look at all of your books in a new way and make something a little bit different. All right, that's all from me today. Thank you so much for stopping by again while I'm away. And this will be getting viewed closer to the end of my holiday. So you'll be seeing me very soon with hopefully a bounty of lovely treasure that I have found in Europe and lots of stories to tell. So if you like the project today, give the video a thumbs up. That would be wonderful. And think about subscribing to the channel. And I hope you have a great week making something fun and new. Maybe some art book envelopes. Thanks so much, everybody, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.